What I expect to see from the Bengals in free agency this offseason, plus our first edition of Buy, Sell, Hold, which includes Tee Higgins, Jonah Williams, and much, much more. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. I'll be joined by Andrew Fox Miller in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for subscribing to Cincinnati Bengals Talk on YouTube. And as always, this show brought to you by the Big Play Network. Really excited to be a part of Big Play as we move into a really crucial part of the offseason, not only for the Bengals, but for every team. But when you look at the Bengals specifically, this is as big of an offseason as I can remember covering this team, even when you look back at their history, which I have done with Enter the Jungle. See what we did with the title of this show. This might be the biggest offseason in Bengals history for a few reasons, and the first of which is pretty simple. You have a quarterback like Joe Burrow, and who's going to be around him? The decisions they make this offseason with Tee Higgins, which we'll get to in a few minutes here when we welcome in Andrew Fox Miller, those are going to help form or help shape the Joe Burrow era. Whether or not he ends up with multiple rings and Super Bowl championships here in the Queen City or not, whether or not they are able to bounce back and win the AFC North or maybe earn a number 1 or number 2 seed in the AFC playoff race next year. And so what do they need to do this offseason? We'll have plenty of time to talk about specific players that are going to be free agents this offseason and obviously the draft. And we can get to some of those topics when we play buy, sell, hold coming up in a minute. But the Texans, who absolutely crushed the Cleveland Browns over the weekend, who also beat the Bengals in Joe Burrow's last fully healthy game when the Bengals were rolling, had won 4 straight. The Houston Texans are a team that I certainly would look to as a team that had a bunch of holes last offseason, but they were willing to go after guys that might not have been as heralded, might not have had the market that some of the top guys in free agency had, but guys that are difference makers. And that's what the Bengals need to do this offseason, because we would be talking about the Bengals in the playoffs. Heck, maybe they make the divisional round, even with the Joe Burrow injury, had they made 3 moves this past offseason that the Texans did make. Early on in the year, what did we see? We saw the Bengals struggle at running back and struggle at tight end. People said it was the worst tight end room in the league. Others said it was the worst running back room in the league. And as Chase Brown emerged, Joe Mixon became more efficient, and the running backs came along. Tanner Hudson emerged, and you saw production go up a bit in that tight end room. But those were 2 big points of emphasis, especially early in the year. What did the Texans do in free agency? They went out and they got Devin Singletary for like $2 million. And Devin Singletary has been awesome. He's the type of back that the Bengals should, would, maybe could target this offseason. The same thing goes for Dalton Schultz. It's no secret that the Bengals tight end room was a point of emphasis, a talking point all offseason last year. And Dalton Schultz was on the market for forever, well past the start of free agency. He was just out there, and the Texans scoop him up, and he becomes a difference maker. Let's go with one more position here, and it's another guy that the Bengals, who knows, maybe they will look at it, a guy like Sheldon Rankins, someone at defensive tackle that they could use alongside BJ Hill. Right now, this defensive tackle room, pretty thin. Jay Tufele is under contract. Josh Tupou is a free agent. DJ Reader's a free agent. Zach Carter has been underwhelming and didn't take a step forward in year 2 like the Bengals had hoped. And when you combine that with questions at running back, with questions at tight end, these are all 3 spots that the Bengals could be looking for and potentially address in March. What does it mean? Well, it doesn't mean the Bengals have to sign those guys, but they do have to push the envelope and be willing to not only sign a guy or 2 or 3 in free agency, but if there are guys still hanging out there a week or 2 later than expected that you didn't plan on going after, like a Dalton Schultz, maybe consider going after him, even if it means spending a little bit more on tight end than you planned on going into free agency. Those are the moves that can make all the difference. Of course, Joe Burrow got hurt, and the Bengals, they were never going to win the Super Bowl without Joe Burrow, but they would have been much better off, especially early in the season, had they added some of those players. And those are guys that they're going to have to target this offseason. Let's dive into what the Bengals could, should, might do this offseason, whether it's free agency, whether it's their own guys. Tee Higgins, should they sign him to a long-term extension? Will Joe Mixon be on the roster next offseason. Up next, we'll play buy, sell, and hold with some major offseason questions lingering. Welcome back in to Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien, and let's welcome in Andrew Fox Miller for the first time on today's show. Andrew, we have a lot of questions in our first edition of Buy, Sell, Hold. Let's get into it.
Yeah, all right, let's go. Buy, sell, hold, James. We'll begin with the very person you talked about in the first segment here, and that is Tee Higgins. Buy, sell, hold. The Bengals should sign Tee Higgins to a long-term contract extension.
This is the biggest question of the offseason. There's no doubt about it. If you buy it, that means you're buying probably 4 years, $90 million. If you sell it, that means that you're saying, hey, you have to at least be willing to let him leave in free agency, which I don't know anyone that can sell it. Holding it means you might franchise tag him, let him play it out for one more year. I think the majority of people are probably on the hold train. I'm not. I'm still on the buy train, and I'm not sure what the negotiations are like if the Bengals front office or T's agent, David Mulligetta, want to let me know what the negotiations have been like, what the specific numbers are. I would love to be able to comment further. But you're talking about a 24-year-old wide receiver, had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, has had some injury issues. There's no doubt about that. But you've drafted him. You developed him. Do you want to let him walk? And my answer is no. So if I could buy Tee Higgins and keep him for 3 years or 4 years, I would do it if it's reasonable. But, and here's the qualifier, and this is what makes it really tough. If he's asking for huge money that is unrealistic to pay, 4 years, $27 million per year, he's asking for wide receiver one money, and in that will be wide receiver one money in a year or two. Well, that's tough to give a Tee Higgins because he's not the wide receiver one on this team, and you have other priorities as well. So I think what I would do is I would try to get a deal done. I would then, if that doesn't happen, tag Tee Higgins and trade Tee Higgins. So it's pretty simple. Either I'm buying him long-term or I'm holding him just enough to sell him this offseason to a team that really wants Tee Higgins badly enough.
So under your definition of hold, with that being tagging, I'm going to go with hold. Now, I was going into this thinking sell because I simply just don't think that they will or should, because I think the money's going to be steep. And he deserves whatever deal he gets. I just don't know if it's a good fit with the Bengals and what they need to, their priorities. Mm-hmm. I would say sell typically, but under your definition, I'm going to go with hold. I think I'm a hold on that.
And I think that's what they will do. I think they'll tag him and make him play it out. I hate that because I don't want to lose T the asset. That's why I like paying him. I love the idea of keeping him around because of how valuable he is and because of how important he is to the offense. At the same time, when you hear Joe Burrow's comments, and we talked about them recently on this show, I think everyone expects him to be back next year. And what does that mean? That probably means the franchise tag. If I would, in my world, that's not an option. And you can make up your mind if you're going to franchise tag him before the combine. And at the combine, you let everybody know that T's available for insert whatever pick you want. I think Carolina would give up pick 33 in this year's draft for T. You might be able to get more than that from them. They're wide receiver desperate. So that's just one example that could be coming the Bengals' way. So we'll see on Tee Higgins, but I would try to get a long-term deal done. I'm not sure how realistic it is. And if you can't do that, tag and trade him.
Moving along, buy, sell, hold. The Bengals should keep Joe Mixon on the roster for 2024.
Sell. $8.9 million cap hit. He's due a $3 million roster bonus on March 16th. And people are going to look at the counting stats and say, well, Joe Mixon, another 1,000-yard season. He was good in the passing game. You look at it, nearly 1,400 yards from scrimmage, a bunch of touchdowns. And I get it, I do. But when you look at the volume, everyone thinks the Bengals don't run the ball. Joe Mixon got plenty of touches this year. He did. He was their only option for most of the year that they trusted to touch the ball and hand the ball off out of the backfield, the throw the ball to him out of the backfield. I mean, he was the guy. And then they finally let Chase Brown get after it a bit. look, it's a deep free agent class running back wise, and the value just is not there. Now, could he return? Maybe he will. The Bengals are loyal. I think Mike Brown is loyal. But for what you get, and I know he's a fan favorite, and people are going to hate me saying this, but for what you're getting, that is not maximizing value at running back. And when I look at all these other positions that they have to pay this offseason, I led the show with how they have to go after some of these guys. You can find better value at running back and use that money at defensive tackle. Use that money for offensive tackle, which we're going to discuss in just a bit. Those two positions among many that they could address with that. So I think they need to get cheaper in the running back room. We've seen what could happen if they are more explosive, get more explosive in the running back room. If you do that, I think it'll make the offense better. It'll raise the ceiling, and you'll be less expensive and you can add elsewhere.
Yeah, under the current, to your point, under the current agreement, what he's owed, especially as we roll into March, I'm going to go with sell as well. Next up, buy, sell, hold. Dax Hill will start at safety alongside Jordan Battle next season.
Ooh.
Buy, sell, hold.
Buy. And if you want to sell your Dax Hill stock, I'll buy that too. And by you, I mean you watching right now. Andrew, I'm not sure how you feel about this. I think it is wild how quickly Dax Hill went from, man, he's flashed a lot in the safety room this year, and Nick Scott is the worst human ever. And that's how it felt with Bengals fans on social media. And Nick Scott did struggle. There's no denying that. To Dax Hill has been awful. They need to move him. He can't play safety. And all that does is that reminds me that a lot of you did not watch Jesse Bates in 2018 and 2019, because Dax Hill has made plenty of plays. He's also made plenty of mistakes. So did Jesse Bates early on. And Bates's mistakes were different. He was a bad tackler. Dax Hill's been a pretty darn good tackler, especially in space, the way he's able to fire down and make tackles. Had 110 tackles this year. Bates wasn't as good there. He was better at the safety, deep safety element of this. Dax didn't play a lot of deep safety at Michigan. He didn't. He was around the box and he was moving around and all of those things. He's going to be just fine, as is Jordan Battle. I will buy stock in the Bengals safety room. I think those two guys are going to be really, really good for a long time, starting in 2024.
I'm buying as well. I'm buying. It is too soon to be making any determination on the future of either of these players beyond their current status, which is starting at safety for this team. Now, I don't necessarily, do I want something in free agency to occur where they actually maybe get some rotational guys, or maybe to some degree a little competition beyond somebody that is not a clear-cut starter? Like, yes, that would be great. I don't want them drafting their potential replacement. This is a very young room with a lot of promise, and there is no reason to be selling or holding. I just don't see it.
Dax Hill is an elite athlete that struggled communication-wise in a young room. They struggled defensively to communicate. And that's why you saw so many breakdowns. I think that can improve. I think taking the right angle on certain tackle, I think those things can improve with playing time and experience. What you can't teach is that athleticism, is that speed, is the playmaking ability. Dax Hill could have easily had 5 interceptions this year, and he dropped a couple of them. But he made plays on the ball to get in those positions. I think he holds on to them moving forward. We'll see, but I'm certainly buying stock in a room where the stock is pretty low. Are you buying Jonah Williams? Will Jonah return to Cincinnati next season? We'll answer that question next on Enter the Jungle. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Let's continue with buy, sell, hold, and transition to the right tackle spot with Jonah Williams set to become a free agent for the first time in his NFL career since being the 11th overall pick in the 2019 draft.
All right. So Jonah Williams, buy, sell, hold, James. Jonah Williams will be the highest paid tackle in free agency this year.
Buy. And that's why Jonah Williams will not be in Cincinnati this year. That man is about to get paid. Jonah, I will take Jeff Ruby steak dinner anytime you want, my man, because on this channel last year, so many people said they're going to trade him, get him out of here. And you calmly come on and you say, hey, go show you can play right tackle and you're going to get paid. And he is going to get paid. He's going to get a huge, huge contract. In fact, let's just use Orlando Brown Jr.'s contract as a benchmark. 4 years, $64 million. I think Jonah's contract with his next team exceeds that. He's shown the ability to play both left tackle and right tackle like Orlando Brown Jr. Isn't dead set on playing one versus the other. Told me he would train at both spots. I think a team is going to go out and pay him $70+ million. Played every snap this year. I think Jonah Williams' stock's on the rise, and I think he's going to get paid with multiple Ds at the end.
I'm buying as well. I have to admit it's a bit of a soft buy here. I'm not
buy.
I'm not like, yeah, give me all that stock. It's just the market in general. It's nothing specific to Jonah. I wouldn't be surprised if something just weird happens in free agency with offensive line, particularly tackle. Something feels odd. I can't explain it. I think I'm going to define it as we get closer. So it's a soft buy. I'm not huge on it, but I'm going to buy. I mean, why wouldn't I? Kind of have to. It's what we're up. The facts are there. You just laid it out.
That's what NFL teams have to do,
right?
Because they need offensive linemen in an offensive starved league. Let's keep it rolling here with buy, sell, hold.
Yeah. So speaking of Jonah Williams again, the Bengals buy, sell, hold. Bengals should prioritize Jonah Williams over DJ Reader.
Sell. I'm selling this one. I'm selling this one for a few reasons. I think the likelihood is I'm selling the idea of signing either one. Now, I would re-sign Reader under the right circumstances and Jonah under the right circumstances.
Exactly.
I don't think either one of those circumstances is likely to happen. DJ Reader is more likely, in my opinion, and I think he's more valuable based on what I've looked at this offseason. I do think that the Bengals could find a veteran at right tackle or because you only need one versus at defensive tackle for this Bengals team. They might reach out to you, Andrew, if you want to, bulk up a little bit. They might reach out to you. Like that's where they're at. So I would sell the idea that Jonah it would be the priority or would be the guy. But I also think that the likelihood is that neither Jonah Williams nor DJ Reader is back next season.
Yeah, I'm going to sell as well, primarily for what you laid out. But it does come down to the offer, the deal, right? I would think that Reader is going to be a little bit more manageable, tolerable with their existing salary cap and what their needs are. I don't obviously know, but for that reason alone, and assuming that Jonah Williams is going to be the highest paid tackle, I'm going to sell on the idea that they're going to prioritize Jonah over DJ Reader.
We have one more buy, sell, hold. It's about the draft, baby, which I'm already diving into the draft much earlier than I have in recent years because of the Bengals and how far they've made it in the postseason, but starting to eye the draft. So let's get to that one.
Okay, draft it is. Bengals will take Brock Bowers at number 18 if he falls to them in the draft.
Buy. Like in sync in their prime. It ain't no lie. No, all right, I'll stop.
Oh, wow.
Brock Bowers is the top tight end in this draft by far. Last year you had Dalton Kincaid and people were saying Michael Mayer. Obviously Sam Laporta ended up being the best one. But there wasn't a full consensus on who the top tight end was. Luke Musgrave was getting mentioned, Tucker Kraft. All those guys I think are going to end up being good players, by the way. The Bengals didn't end up with any of them, which is kind of painful. If Brock Bowers is there at 18, I think they take him, much like they would have taken, in my opinion. I'm not going to say I know this for a fact because it didn't play out this way. If Dalton Kincaid had made it to 28, I think they take him. He didn't make it there. The Bills took him 25th overall. They traded up to get him. I think Brock Bowers would be the pick. Stud out of Georgia. You give him Joe Burrow. You give him Jamar Chase. I think he becomes your number 2 weapon in the post-Tee Higgins era on offense.
I'm buying as well. Obviously, we're working under the premise that he actually falls to number 18. I might even buy that they would trade up. I feel that for Bengals, that feels a bit crazy. I know, but I'm just saying the hype's going to build and build. And there's an element that I feel like there's going to be like an overcorrection for all the reasons you just spelled out from last draft.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's buy. This is as much as the Bengals do unpredictable things, all of a sudden they're just grabbing like another safety in the first round or something this year. They also, when there's that can't miss prospect, they tend to get who they need when they're right there at that position and it works out. And this would be one where it absolutely just works out.
Hey, Brock, fall to 18. It'll be the best thing that could ever happen to you, getting paired with Joe Burrow. Up next, our favorite plays from the 2023 season, and a Cincinnati legend is retiring. Welcome back in to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien, and the 2023 season is over. But earlier this week, the Bengals, they shared their top 10 plays from the season. So, Andrew, let's share our top play from the 2023 campaign. What's yours?
Mine is going to be Bengals 49ers, Joe Burrow, first quarter, first offensive drive for the Bengals, scrambles, evades, sheds multiple would-be sacks, gets the pass to Tee Higgins for the first. I know it wasn't a touchdown. It was a crucial first down, 3rd and 10, ultimately goes to Tyler Boyd. But to me, that was, yes, they won against Arizona. Yes, they won. They won 2 in a row prior to that, right? We're 3-3 coming out of the bye. That was when things just took a notch. It was just this next level to me, and seeing Burrow do what those sort of magical things he had done in the season prior after this whole calf saga, it just took the hype to another level for me, that one play.
I get it. And mine is from that stretch of games where they won 4 straight, and it's the first one in Arizona. Questions about Joe Burrow's calf. They're 1-3. They're desperate. Jamar Chase takes over, and Joe Burrow finds him for a 63-yard touchdown. It was the longest air yards pass of Joe Burrow's career. And that's what reminded everyone, like, oh, these dudes, they're still here. Doubt them at your own risk. And the Bengals went on to win 4 straight. So those are our favorite plays from the 2023 season. Wanted to give a quick shout out to Jason Kelce. Congratulations on retirement. The Cincinnati Bearcat alum, legend, playing, drafted a 6th round, 2011, 7 Pro Bowls, 6 All-Pros, 36 years old, still playing at an elite level. Congrats on retirement. And who knows, maybe we'll run into him at the Combine again this year. But that's going to do it for us. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching Enter the Jungle.